So some of this is just to get stuff off my chest. My girlfriend just got completely cut off. She just went from getting a large monthly allowance to nothing. Meanwhile, she has rent due next month. Her personal savings will keep her afloat for a few months, but reality hasn't sunk in yet. I live with her, and we split utilities, so that softens the blow a bit, but she is fully responsible for rent, because half the rent in this place would quite literally be my monthly income. Thankfully, she has options. She is well liked by my parents, and they've said that we can both move in with them, but she refuses to do it. She refuses to change her spending habits, and on her current trajectory will burn through $50K in savings in less than 6 months. I love this person, but I'm starting to see how divorced from reality her upbringing has allowed her to be. The worst part is that I feel partly responsible. I've allowed my girlfriend to spoil me rotten. We've been living an upper middle class life as college students. I certainly wasn't complaining. The only good news is that she has amazing credit, but if she doesn't adjust her lifestyle, it won't be that way for long. More info. She is a full-time student, and has never held down a real job before, real being not working in some way for her parents. Her income is zero, so there is no splitting stuff evenly. I've tried to talk about it, but it's not an experience I'm familiar with. It's funny how when you have a lot of money there's no need to talk about it. I'm not going to abandon her or make ultimatums. She is responding with apathy about it at this point. I'm not worried about it. What happens, happens, and it's hard to break through that. She has savings, but she just doesn't seem to get that they are going to run out. I'm not going to move out, but I can send a message through my actions that I don't 100% agree with what she is doing. If I move, it will be to my parents. I work a part-time job as an engineering intern. I simply don't make enough to live on my own in this city. I'm definitely going to try and get her to budget, if only to see that what she is doing now won't work over the long term. Part of me thinks that she doesn't seriously think this is permanent, and there's no reason for her not to think that. And another part of me thinks that she doesn't care that she is burning through her savings. I think she is ultimately a reasonable person too. She has just never had to deal with any of this stuff before. The rent is very high. A part-time job is not going to help her too much. There are definitely areas where she can cut back though. I mean, we go out to eat and to movies occasionally. We eat organic as much as possible. And she spends a significant amount on clothes/beauty items/services for herself. And to a lesser extent on me, and clothes/toys/food/medicine for our dog. As I said, I know where and how to cut back. It's just a matter of getting her to do it. Her parents have never done anything like this before. She has always been daddy's little girl. Daddy is going through a divorce, however, and he wants his little girl to cut her mother out of her life since she cheated on him. Basically, he is trying to ruin his soon-to-be ex-wife in every way possible. It's really ugly. He made it sound as if it was about her grades, but in reality, he is trying to punish her for not cutting ties with her mother as all of his other kids have. He doesn't give a shit about her grades. He is still paying for her education. He just stopped giving her funds every month. Now, her father was the victim of being cheated on, but it's pretty low for him to punish his daughter because she still wanted to talk to her mother. However, I know this guy well enough to know how much he loves his daughter, and even though I'm not a betting man, if I was, I would be willing to bet that he caves sooner or later. Update 1. So, we had a nice pillow talk last night. As suggested by a few people in my initial post, I decided to take the long view, and I decided to suggest she set up a budget. But most importantly, I decided to express how I felt totally honestly. Paraphrasing, I said, I feel like you're not concerned about this situation, and I don't really understand it. You know, I'm the sort that immediately takes action on things, and I know that you're not that way, but usually, you express something to me about it. I feel like you're too apathetic about this, and it bothers me. I'm afraid that you're in shock and you don't know how to handle this. If you honestly just need space on this subject or aren't ready to deal with it, that's fine. Just let me know. I get that. However, when you are ready, I really suggest you make a budget, with or without my help. You could use this as an opportunity to work towards a situation where you don't have to worry about your father being manipulative. Her response was basically, to be honest, I'm worried, but I'm trying to wait it out and see if he will go through with it. I talked to brother name, and he told me that dad hasn't actually done anything, i.e., cut me off, and that dad is pretty upset at himself about how he handled it. I'm still angry at him, and maybe it makes me petty, but I want him to come to me about this. I will definitely take you up on the offer to help with a budget though. This whole thing has shaken my world a bit, you know? Something that I thought would never happen, happened. One minute I'm thinking about hiring a cleaning lady that will come more often. The next you're talking about us moving in with your parents and paying them by cleaning their house. It's like, wow, that's a crazy role reversal. My confidence in my father is sort of shaken. I think I was so apathetic because of that. So fast forward to the following morning, and shortly after breakfast, to my pleasant surprise, she said she had gotten YNAB, and asked me to go through everything with her. In short order, it was really clear to her that things needed to change a huge amount, and it clearly wasn't a pleasant experience for her, but she stuck with it. After we were mostly done, we took a break and went to go run some errands together. She was pretty quiet in the car until she decided to call her father. The conversation was quite personal, but as it turns out, he didn't really want her to cut her mother out of her life. It seemed he just wanted acknowledgement from his children that he didn't fail them by divorcing her. He grew up in a place and time where divorce was frowned upon. He told her that an hour after he told her she was cut off. He changed his mind and that he wasn't going to go through with it, regardless of whatever happened between them. As you can imagine, she cheered up considerably about the whole thing and became her usual bubbly self. So when we got home, I felt the need to have another conversation. And it seemed like the appropriate time. Paraphrasing again, I said, "This whole situation has got me thinking about our relationship with money as a couple. It's odd because it isn't something we talk about at all. I like sharing a space with you. I love holding you while you fall asleep at night. I love tickling you awake with my nose. I love you. I will love you, here, or in my parents' basement. However, you know that I can only afford one of those two places. I guess what I'm saying is, that I don't want our relationship to be based on stuff, and I want you to understand that. You've spoiled me over the last 14 months, but that's not our relationship. Maybe there comes a time for whatever reason that you don't want to sort of support me anymore as you do, but you still want to be in a relationship. Maybe you feel like our financial situation creates a power imbalance. Whatever. What I'm trying to say is, that I want you, not the lifestyle. If you ever feel the need to move to a place that's cheaper, a place that I can contribute in a fairer way to, that's fine. Just as long as we live together, I'm happy, even if that's in my parents' basement." Her initial response was somewhat bewildered. "Are you trying to say you're unhappy here?" After I cleared it up that wasn't the case, she said, paraphrasing, "I try to avoid money talk because it's always been awkward. It's hard having money and wanting to do expensive things with people who don't have money. Suddenly you're in my house, and there isn't anyone in the world right now I want to do stuff with more. I have someone I can spend my money on to go skiing with, go out to eat with, do arts and crafts with, and generally not have to worry about that sort of thing with. As far as the living expenses go, it's not like I would be living anywhere else if you weren't around, so that's not really relevant. I like spending my money on you. The key thing is, it's my money. I should be able to do anything I want with it, including spoiling you, as you say, as long as you respect that boundary, that it's my money, it's not something we have to think about. To be honest, it was weird when you asked me to create a budget, and it sort of felt like you were about to cross that boundary, but you handled it well. I felt like it was my choice the whole way, and that motivated me." This dovetailed into another discussion about the budget, and to be perfectly honest, she softened it significantly, but she kept many common sense cuts. I'm optimistic that this is something she will stick to. Now, she's certainly right in saying that it's her money, directly lined from her father. Sure, she didn't earn it, but I'm not going to judge or fault her for that. It's a very different situation to many other people, but that's the world she lives in. So, I'm just trying to approach it as a gift, nothing more, nothing less, and I should treat it as such, i.e., not feel bad about it, but never expect anything. Now for the next story. She wanted to marry me in a year. I didn't want that, so I broke up with her. Story 2, throwaway because she knows my real account. Also, I'm Italian and prefer Wario to Mario. A little background. I've only had 2 LTRs before her, my high school girlfriend whom I was with for 6 years, 16-22, and my other girlfriend whom I was with for 4 years, 26-30. Both breakups were amicable, with no infidelity or shady happenings. They were primarily my fault, due to how I prioritized studying/work over them. I'm still friends with my second girlfriend, who is now married to a good man and has 2 kids. In between those relationships and before I met my current girlfriend, I've been keeping things casual, with no commitment. I met my current girlfriend 6 months ago at a bar while out with some friends, and as corny as it sounds, it was love at first sight. She was unquestionably the most gorgeous woman I have ever seen, easily 15/10. We got to talking, went on some amazing dates, and made things official after 1 month. I was just enamored by her sense of humor, how enthusiastic and exciting she was, and always in awe of her beauty. Although we don't have too many interests in common, the chemistry is tremendous and I've never felt so strongly attracted to anyone before. We already said we loved each other 4 months in, and I truly believe it. But lately, some things started to bother me. When she introduced me to her friends, she bragged about me being a doctor. It was seemingly lighthearted, so I laughed and then jokingly bragged about it too. When she introduced me to her parents, she did the same thing but with a bit more gusto this time. And over the last month and a half, she's been talking more and more about marriage and children, although never quite explicitly saying that we would get married and have kids. The hints are strong, though. Last week we went to a charity event she was involved in, and every single person she introduced me to that night, she said the same thing. "Hello. This is my lovely boyfriend and the man I will spend my life with, Ob. He's a cardiologist, you know." I've always been fairly modest about what I do, so it was uncomfortable for me to hear her gush about my job to strangers. I was feeling uncomfortable but smiled and went along with it so as not to dampen her mood. And the man I will spend my life with part hit me like a speeding truck. She didn't say future husband, but fuck me if I don't know what her implication was. I love my girlfriend and I did believe prior to all this that I would eventually marry her and have children with her. But I didn't expect this to come up fucking 5 months in. Now I'm fearing that she's just a gold digger and is using me as a provider. She moved in after 3 just months. I truly hope that isn't the case, but the signs sure seem to point to it. And if it is that way, I think I'll break up with her. So I'm here to ask, am I overthinking this, or is the worst true? I pray to God I'm looking too far into this, but now that I'm actually reading what I wrote, this is terrifying. I can't even confront her about this for fear of turning her away from me. I can't accuse her of using me for my money and still expect her to stay with me or respect me after that. More info. I realize I come across as shallow. I don't just care about her looks. I will admit that her looks are what attracted me to her in the first place, but her personality is what kept me around. As I said, we don't share too many common interests, different tastes in movies, books, hobbies, etc., but we can talk for hours about the most mundane things and still have fun doing so. She is delightful, easygoing, and hilarious. A joy to be around, and we do connect really well. It's not just about appearance and sex, despite what some posters are saying about me. My friends get along with her well enough but don't really feel we're right for each other. My mother is dead. My father doesn't like her too much and says she's shallow. I respect my father more than anyone else in the world. We got into a fight over what he said. But this was still when I was pathetically blind in love with her. She works in retail and said she wants to be a stay-at-home mom like her own mother was. She doesn't really contribute financially to the household, but she does take care of the household stuff, vacuuming, cooking, laundry, etc. She handles most of it. I pay the bills myself and also pay for new furniture, appliances, etc. She does pay sometimes when we go out, though. I don't want to pay for everything for her. I would like her to lend more of a hand to our finances, but given our income gap, I understand why she won't. I know I was stupid to agree to her moving in after only 3 months, but I was so hopelessly blinded by love that I forced myself to only see the good in letting her move in so early. And she was having some problems with her roommate, so I was willing to help her out. In any case, I'm not really interested in having children right now, so I always use a condom, and she is on birth control, and a prenup is a necessity if we do get married. The speed at which things are going, the massive disparity in our incomes, her incessant mentions of marriage and children, and introducing me as a doctor to every single person she wants me to meet is what makes me think that she's with me only because I'm a doctor. And the thing is, I hate telling people I'm a doctor. I didn't even tell her until the 3rd date. I don't like being paraded about. Update: she is a gold digger. I was fairly certain of this before I spoke to her, but then a Redditor argued the following points and helped me see things more clear. Few common interests, certainly not a necessity, but often people in relationships share at least some interests. Short courtship, there's no hard rule about this, but cohabitation after 3 months is generally frowned upon because neither party really knows what they're getting into. Introduces you as a doctor. I get introducing you to her parents as the doctor. That would make any parent happy about the situation. But to everyone else? Shouldn't it just be my wonderful boyfriend? Income disparity. Again, there is nothing wrong with people from 2 different economic groups falling in love, but the gap has to be relatively large? No? Hinting at marriage and kids, after 6 months? Dude, as much as you don't know her, she doesn't really know you. It's certainly possible that she's just immature, but with everything else. Past relationship history. From your comments, having lots of short relationships is, again, not a bad thing in and of itself. But you have to wonder why they were so short. Was it the guys? Could be. But the common denominator is her financial contribution. From your comments, she doesn't contribute to your shared household. Now, if this was discussed and established beforehand, well, whatever works for you guys. And she works in retail, so she can't be an equal contributor with you. But it seems like you have taken on the provider role as a default without actually talking about it. So all of these things, taken together, would certainly indicate that she is a gold digger. But I was still willing to talk it out in the hopes that I would be wrong. So, Saturday night I took her out to dinner at a May-level restaurant. The first bad omen was that she got a bit miffed and asked why we weren't going to an elegant restaurant like we usually do. I said I didn't want to spend hundreds on a meal that night. I could tell she was annoyed. The food at the mediocre restaurant was still great, but she wasn't very happy during the meal. After dinner, we came home and I told her I needed to speak to her about future plans. First, I explained that we need to spend less on luxuries and save up for retirement and for my other projects. This is also true, as I do intend to retire within the next 20 years and I'm looking to get into real estate. She was upset about this. Next, I told her I don't have any interest in marrying soon or having kids yet. This isn't a lie. I truly do not want to get married or have children yet. She got upset again, saying I'm just getting older, and that soon I won't be able to have a family. She said it was not fair to her for me to keep stringing her along without committing, and this caused me to do a double take. What the fuck? I let her move in with me. I pay all the bills, I buy her tons of shit all the time, and I'm strictly monogamous. What other commitment aside from the fancy wedding is there? I told her this and she was now visibly frustrated. She said she wants marriage and children soon. I told her she can do that with another person since we're not on the same page. She started yelling at me for being an asshole, so I told her that one day I would marry her, probably within the next 3-4 years. I thought this was reasonable enough, but she said she wants marriage now. She wants to be Mrs. Op by this time next year. I told her that we could definitely get married early, but only if we get a prenup. She flipped out, screaming that I don't trust her and think lowly of her. I brought up every point the Redditor mentioned, that I put at the top of the update. I mentioned everything from the income disparity to the astoundingly fast pace of the relationship to her constant parading me around as a doctor. I told her that all of those facts as well as her present behavior proved to me that she's a gold digger. I told her we were done. At this point, she breaks down into tears and is mumbling incoherently. I tell her I'll help her find an apartment and cover her expenses for a month. I called her friend, who's on good terms with me, to pick her up. She left soon after without much protest. She's still at her friend's. She's been texting me asking if she can come home. I agreed and she's coming back tomorrow. I'll serve her the eviction notice tomorrow. I plan to help her search for affordable housing and I'm willing to help her get on her feet. I know she's a gold digger and doesn't deserve this courtesy, but the last 5 months have been pretty great and I feel it's the least I can do. Eventually, we will phase out into no contact. That's it for me. It's sad that things turned out like this, but like a few users pointed out, it's better to end things now than years into marriage, when I have nothing to talk about with her because we share almost no interests. We're done, she's moving out, and I'm going to venture forth into the dating world in search of a woman who loves me, not my wallet. Wario forever.